Welcome to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast to the Sydney Swans Football Club. My name's Noddy, joined as always by Stevo. And in this episode number 25, we're going to talk about the game just played against the Suns, a few general topics in the AFL, the elimination final ahead against the Giants, and finish off with all of our tips for all the games from week one of finals. So to all you Cygnets and Swanlings out there, fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods. Last Saturday night on the 21st of August at an empty Marvel Stadium, the sixth place Sydney Swans defeated the 15th place Gold Coast Suns by 87 points with a final score of 21-10-136 to 6-13-49. Okay, Stevo, first impressions. What do you think of that?
Oh, look, I mean, like we talked about last week, all I really wanted from this was a solid win and a clean bill of health. We got a great win. It was really pleasing, especially the way they played, but losing Callum Mills potentially for next week or, the finals, however long they go, is a worry. And look, I mean, the result was probably not even in doubt from like late in the first quarter, early in the second. I think we got out to like a 7-0-0 lead early in the second quarter. The Suns rallied a bit in the second term, and in the end, the Swans just went down on like the last two quarters of the game, played really well. And here we are, 23 weeks of football. We've got 9 games left only. Like footy, it's weird. The footy season always comes around quickly. Like August always seems to disappear. 1 minute it's June, July, and you're right in the depths of the season and sort of almost waiting for the end, and then bang, it's here. We've got 9 games, one regular round worth of matches, and that's it. We're done for 2021.
So is the circle of life, as they say, Stevo. Look, we came out of the blocks, didn't we, with a bang, and it hasn't always been there this year. So it's pleasing to see that. And although the Suns did manage to win that second quarter by a point, the game was basically over by halfway through the third. The fourth quarter was basically just party time. We seem to really switch on, which I loved seeing. We want to go in the finals with some momentum. We spoke about that last week, and I think we did. We also wanted to play well and come out unscathed. And as you've already mentioned, Mills, who's arguably been our best player all year, is a massive talking point, his injury or his management of injury. So, we'll touch on that a couple of times throughout this episode, definitely. All right, Stevo, what were your key takeaways?
Number one for me is that after 2 years in the bottom 4, we're back in the finals, which is amazing. If you told me that at the start of the year, that we'd be gearing up to play finals, I'd be stoked, and expectations shift as the year goes on, of course, but I'm really, really happy just to be in the finals again. And funnily enough, we're going to play the same team we played last time we were in the finals in a 6 versus 7 elimination final from 2018. But then actually I looked at the ladder from that year, and that's about, it is the same. The top 4 from 2018, when we were last in the finals, was Richmond, West Coast, Collingwood, and Hawthorn, and they're all gone. They're not even in it. So stuff changes quickly in the AFL. And then I guess just like on field, I think our best footy is as good as anyone's footy, and I'm really excited to see how the finals are going to go. And this next week's about getting out there and putting that best on the field.
Definitely, mate. Look, in a game with a stack of highlights, such as our biggest score all year against the team who was our biggest loss all year, coincidentally, Buddy's 6th goal, Buddy's 700th behind, Cunningham's 150th game, Heaney's goal of the year contender. Somehow, for me, Mills's injury just seems to trump all those things because just the year he's had and the role he's been playing. In any case, it needs repeating just how amazing a year we've had. No one who's anyone really, apart from Damo and Rowan Connolly, picked us to make the 8. But our bounce up the ladder has really been something for the ages. And there was a fantastic piece on the Swans app by Peter Blucher for the Swans media, who digs into the stats behind our climb and it ranks and how it ranks in our history. So check it out when you get a chance. Basically, my key takeaway from that piece was that the Swans of 2021 have ranked first in the league for ladder position improvement, win count, and percentage increase. So fantastic result. So to Horse and all you Swannies boys, take a bow for that achievement thus far. We had faith in you when the others didn't, and don't believe anyone who says we didn't. But thank you also for your massive effort in what's been another extremely challenging year with all the COVID hurdles. Yeah, Stevo, did I need to pass the conch back over to you, mate? Or
I guess
Are
I can
you?
I'll just add to that, yeah, just to say that this has been a season where the Swans have been on the road for like 2 months now, or something like that. Giants as well, both the New South Wales teams have really been up against it, and just for both of those teams to make the finals is a fantastic effort, and it's somehow fitting in a way that they play in the first week of the finals.
Yeah, let's. It might be a case of the last team standing. Um, but yeah, let's hope it goes our way. All right, just very quickly, a quarter by quarter breakdown. First quarter, we won 6-4 to their 0-4, smashed them to take the lead by 36 points. Second quarter, they won 3-4 to our 3-3, so they had a 1 point win, but they trailed by 35 at halftime. In the third quarter, we won 4-goals zip to their 2-1. So won that by 11 and took a lead of 46 points. And then finally in the fourth, we came to play and scored 8-3 to their 1-4. Won that one by 41 points. And the net result was a huge victory by 87 points to our Bloods. How fantastic. All right, Stevo, stats, throw me some numbers, mate.
I mean, domination of possession by a lot of our important players. We had a lot of players getting quite a lot of the ball compared to what they did. And I think that we're also able to get the ball into the hands of our good ball users a lot. So if you look at the stats list, the individual player possessions, 6 of the top 8 in ball winners were Swans. And our clean kickers, so Lloyd, Dawson, and McInerney using the ball through halfback and up the wing, were all at the top of our list. And then a lot of their players didn't have much of an impact. If you look at the other end of that table, 8 of the 10 lowest possession winners on the ground were Suns players.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to look at goals, mate. So with 31 scoring shots, kicking 21 straight and 10 behinds, we kicked the most goals we have all year. And boy, was it great to watch. Our next closest game, obviously, was way back in round one against the Lions, where we had 30 scoring shots with 19 goals and 11 behinds. We kicked it 68% to the Suns' 32%, so we more than doubled their conversion, even though that Ben King again kicked a handful of goals against us, so he's one to watch in the years ahead. In any case, it was the fourth time all year that we've had 10 plus different goal scorers. That's something I hope we can keep going to the finals. I will also say that it was our second biggest positive margin all year after the 92-point belting of the Eagles down in Geelong in round 16. All right, Stevo, what were your favourite moments of the game?
Oh, I mean, it was a game full of moments, really, wasn't it? There was some great ones. But I think what I want to do this week is just highlight a couple of really good bits of play from 2 of our younger players. First of all, Braden Campbell. He did
Not
some
Errol
really,
Goulden?
no. I've put him for a rest because I think you're giving me too much stick about always talking about Errol Goulden. So I'm not going to talk about him now until he gets 30 touches and 5 goals. That'll be the next time. Next time you hear about Errol Goulden from me.
Maybe next week.
Yeah, maybe we'll
Oh,
see how he goes.
yeah.
So his mate Braden has been back in the team the last couple of weeks, which has been great to see. And there's a point in the first quarter, 8 minutes to go in the first quarter. The Swans are bringing the ball up the ground from the back 50 in that beautiful sort of, I call it like a fishhook style that they do sometimes, where if you put a fishhook down on the field and imagine that the point of the fishhook is where they start, and then they whip around quickly through the back 50 and then boom, up the field, up the straight part of the fishhook, and then deliver it into the forward 50. And Braden Campbell marks the ball uncontested right on the forward 50, close to the boundary. And, he's in a bit of space, but he doesn't rush. He doesn't play on. He doesn't go back to take a low percentage pass option. Instead, he waits almost 10 seconds, which is a long time to wait with the footy in your hand when everyone's screaming for it and you got the pressure of the game and everything. He waits a long time for a good option. And when he gets it, Jordan Dawson has run through for him and he hits Dawson up. He goes back and kicks a beautiful goal. So that was one that shows his composure. And then the second one is also Braden Campbell to show his composure again. In the last quarter, early in the last quarter, like 3 minutes into the last quarter, Campbell gets a short pass from Heaney just inside the 50. He's called to play on, and rather than just blazing away on his left foot into the goals, he gets himself around 2 Suns and pinpoints Will Hayward, who's coming out. He's got a bit of separation, bit of space in front of him. Hayward takes the mark, goes back and misses the goal, but that's not the moral of this tale. It's that Campbell again had that composure to take the best option under pressure. And then the third one is McLean, Hayden McLean, and he was great again. I think he's going to keep Sam Reid out of the team for the finals.
Definitely.
I think he played fantastically well. There's a point in the third quarter, again, only 2 minutes into the third quarter or so. Ball gets kicked long, between the centre square and the wing. McLean wins the ball in traffic. He busts out of the traffic and turns and hits up a running Rampy with a beautiful lateral kick. Rampy's running through the back line, takes the ball in the middle of the ground so he can go forward attacking. And that's the sort of kick and break out of traffic and decision that you'd be excited to see like a 185 centimeter midfielder, 21-year-old do. And this is a bloke who's, almost 2 meters tall. So that was one of those moments where I thought, yeah, let's keep this guy in the team for as long as we can.
Yeah, the future's bright. We've got to make sure that we get him signed up because he's done at the end of this year. So he's one of these contractual talking points that we'll get to in the next couple of weeks. All right, for me, mate, it's got to be Buddy's first goal. First 10, 15 seconds of the game? His great mate, Papley, gets it to him. He catches it. He plays on. He launches from outside 50 and it goes over. And that's how we started the game. And you could just tell that Buddy was in the zone. And we'll talk about him in a moment. My other favourite moment, and this was a clear favourite for me, apart from that Buddy one, it's in the fourth quarter, about 18, 20 minutes on the clock broadcast. Just after that McLean goal, which is the one that he takes the mark in front of Buddy, and then Buddy looked like he was a bit ginger for a second, and I think you could hear all of the Swans fans gasp because obviously we'd lost Mills, and then everyone's like, "Not Buddy too." But yeah, it was all good. So the actual moment I'm trying to get to here is Papley's centre bounce brilliance. Basically, just clears the centre bounce himself, gets his own clearance, runs and gathers on the burst, puts the Jets on, and just goals it from I think just inside 50. But it was just sensational play. Like he's so dynamic, and I think we're going to talk about him in a moment as well. But if that had been Patrick Dangerfield, everyone in the AFL would have been talking about just how good Danger is. But yeah, I think that Papley just showed his brilliance there, and another element to his game, obviously. But they were it for me. All right, we are going to move on to the Bob medal, where Stevo and I give our 5 best Swans on the ground using the 5-4-3-2-1 scoring system, with 5 points being the best. All right, kick us off, Stevo.
This week, when you win by almost 100 points, there's a lot of best players, but the 5 that I came up with was 5 votes to Jake Lloyd, 4 to Dawson, 3 to Heaney, 2 to Buddy Franklin, and 1 to McInerney.
Nice one. All right, I had 5 for Franklin, 4 for Lloyd, 3 for Papley, 2 for Dawson, and 1 for Parker. So, Stevo, Lloydie, let us know.
He was great across halfback. 36 touches. And look, to be fair, Gold Coast weren't exactly giving fantastic pressure on our defenders a lot of the time. We were able to cut through them fairly easily, but still, you've got to win the ball and you've got to do something with it, even if the pressure can be a bit down at times. 36 touches at 94% efficiency. That means that he's out of 36 touches, like 2 of them weren't efficient disposals or something like that. Ridiculous. He just uses it so well. And I think there's a big difference in how we move the ball through halfback when he's in the team versus when he's not. He's been a really great player for us and continues to be, I think, quite an underrated player too.
Is this the first time you've given him 5 points this year?
It could be, but there's been a couple where I've given him a few. I'm not sure I've given him 5 before.
Popped up. Yeah, it's popped up here and there. Probably not in the mix for our best player this year, although he was Swan's best and fairest last year. But yeah, he had a great game, and I'll second that.
I'll tell you right now, just a sec, because I have the privilege.
No. We'll do it. We'll do it after. We'll do it after.
Twice. Yeah. Twice he's got the perfect 10 from us this season.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, Jake Lloyd. Yeah.
All right. Well done, Lloydie. All right, I'm going to talk about Dawson. Obviously, dominant running up and down the wing. Again, 33 touches, 16 marks, and a goal. He really is becoming one of the elite wingmen in the comp, off the comp. And I think there have been whispers all across socials this week saying that he has re-signed. I haven't seen anything official from the club. Have you seen anything, Stevo?
I haven't, but everything seems to be suggesting that he wants to stay, and it's just a matter of sorting it out. And they've probably got other contracts they need to juggle. And he's said about a month or 2 ago that Swans fans
nothing to worry about.
I'm not going anywhere. But the media will run it until he signs, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing is they're waiting to see what the salary cap will be if it's further affected next year. So, but yeah, like he's one of these guys that we're just like doing, I think, anything we can to keep. So, all good. Over to you, mate.
Who's up next? Isaac Heaney. And not just his numbers, which were good. 20 touches and 3 goals won from a sort of half forward type player is a very, very good game.
Great
But
game.
yeah, but his ability to present as an option all over the forward half and to have a really strong impact at the contest, he's just, when he attacks a ball, like I think a little bit of Dustin Martin sometimes, the way that he just comes out with his back to the goal and just crashes into the ball, takes it perfectly, cuts through, and brings other players into the game. He's a really, really good player, and I think he might just explode in the finals, I hope.
When he kicks, oh man, when he's on, like his kicking is just exquisite, isn't it? That right foot bend that just curved so brilliantly, and that wasn't even the. I don't think that was the goal of the year contender. That was the other one that was in the pocket, wasn't it? He got through just in a crazy angle. But yeah, he's the heat. He's the heat for a good reason. All right, I'm going to talk about Big Bud next, mate. So 6 goals, 2 behinds from King Bud. It sounds really strange given his history and standing in the game, obviously, but a fit and firing Lance Franklin could actually be our finals wildcard. What do you think about that, mate? Isn't that weird to say?
It does sound weird, but think about it. Like we've shown throughout the year that we can win without him, and there's been games where he's been, well held and down. But if he explodes, I mean, he could really do some damage in a finals game.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was okay. So that score 6-2 was his biggest of the year. The next biggest was 6 goals, 1 in that 2-point loss against Fremantle in round 10. But obviously that brings his total to 992, only 8 more to kick until he reaches the 1,000. Is this the thing that's going to get the team, just get them there? I don't know. I'm so sad to think that maybe he'll do. I'm thinking now he might do it. What do you reckon? Question without notice.
I think if we play 2 finals, he's a very good chance. If we play 3 finals, I don't think that we'll get to that 3rd final without a big game from him in one of the first 2 finals. So I would have to say yes. If we do 3 finals, then certainly.
If it happens hypothetically speaking, if it happens in the grand final, do you think the states will bar spectators from running on the field because of COVID?
I reckon there's going to be 60,000 fines handed out by the Western Australian Police.
they're going to have a few extra fines, some money going their way after all that, aren't they? It's not just iron ore in WA. Look out!
No, it'll be the next biggest industry in Western Australia after mining.
Exactly. I think you were going to say something about Juzzy.
Oh yeah, Justin McInerney. He was great too. I mean, he just ran and ran and ran from the back half, didn't he? And getting the ball through the middle of the ground, up the wings, across half back. 29 touches, 13 marks. And I really like the way that he opens the game up with his kicking and his decisions. He had a really good game. He was one of many great ones, but I snuck him in for my 1 vote.
He just looks fantastic, doesn't he? I think we're going to talk about him later on. But what another find! What another feather in the cap for Kinnear Beatson so far. He's looking so fantastic. And fingers crossed he can keep on this trajectory. I'm going to just lastly mention. Penultimately, Papley. So 3 goals, 1, had a great impact both forward and at the centre bounce, as I mentioned before, with that favourite moment. He really gives us a dynamic extra edge. And we'll go into ins and outs later on. But yeah, maybe Papley in the middle is that thing that might help us be a bit more competitive, Stevo.
Yeah, I really like him in the centre bounce. He's played a bit in the centre bounce around the stoppages over the years, but whenever he's shown that he's a very, very good stoppage player. So if we can get a bit of explosion out of him, kind of like the way that the Essendon uses Stringer, something like that.
Yeah.
Could be like an extra string in the bow for sure. I'll finish off with Parker, Luke Parker. He was another one of the ones who I considered for the final vote, and you've given him a point. And yeah, like another really strong game in the middle. He was great. He led our midfield, match high 9 clearances. He does what he does every week. And I think the problem with poor Luke Parker is that because we're so used to him just turning up and playing very, very well, that he has to be outstanding for us to think he's worth votes. So poor Parker.
Tough gig. All right, Steve, do you have any honourable mentions?
There was quite a few, but 2 that I liked especially was Tom Hickey. I thought he had a bit of his mojo back, which was really good. And Errol Goulden, I will mention him. There you go. I lied. He played well. It lasted about 5 minutes, didn't it?
It did, but I love the effort. Look, I'm gonna throw in Hayden McLean as that we've touched on, and I think Sammy Wicks had a good game. I think he kicked 2 goals. So yeah, I just think they had some good games as well, and we're in the mix. Now we're going to announce this medal. We're going to include games from the finals, aren't we?
Yep, we will.
We're going to continue. Okay, so depending on how far we get into the finals, we'll keep tallying up this, and then we will present the winner in the coming weeks, hopefully in about 4 or 5 weeks' time. So fingers crossed there. All right, I'm going to give our last fantasy update for the year because the game has finished. In round 23, ABOB scored 1,686 points, which ranked us 32,169th in weekly scores, a 28,000 place improvement, which left us sitting at 65,397th for the year, which is about a 5,000 place drop on last week. But that was where we finished. We have about, I'm guessing, 150,000 people. A pure Swans team finished 65,000. So almost middle of the pack. But that obviously doesn't reflect because we're in the 8, baby. We're in the finals, baby. All right. Top 5 of the game. 4 of the top 5 high scores of the game were Swannies, coming first, third, fourth, and fifth. The highest scoring son was Tuke Miller in second on 133, and he's had an absolutely stellar year himself there. So congratulations to Tuke Miller. Top 5 Swans were Jordan Dawson on 158. I believe that was our biggest individual score of the year. That is just epic. And I didn't make him captain, so that's devastating. Justin McInerney was 119, Lloyd on 116, Hickey on 114, and Buddy on 109. There were 8 Swans who scored 96 points and above. So that's just reflects your point. I think in the stats, Stevo, where you were saying we just dominated, won a lot of the ball, and it really reflected in fantasy. Look, I'm happy to report that was our biggest fantasy score all year. The closest other games was the round 10 loss to Freo on 1,612 points, and the round 19 win against Freo again on 1,609 points. I'm also not equally as happy, but I can confirm that ABOB did not win the Hilux, so we didn't come first, nor did we win a special cap for making the top 100. But let's face it, I'd rather be in the hunt for a flag and not win a cap than be the flip side of that. And I think that goes for the Hilux as well. Just some housekeeping. Next year, when we do this podcast, we'll look to phase this section out in the interest of time streamlining. I will no doubt continue to play because I'm an absolute sucker for punishment and I love fantasy. But we'll just skip this section next year because it's probably it might be just me who benefits from this section. All right, Steve, over to you for the VFL update.
Yeah, that's normally the section of the recording where I go and make a cup of tea, mate, and I come back and I
settle down, mate.
No.
Goodness gracious.
Can I ask though, is that seriously the prize? You get a car if you come first, and then if you come second, you get a cap, like a baseball cap.
No, there's you get I think cash prizes in second and third, and you get tickets to the grand final. But I actually left some very honest feedback for the fantasy guys saying there needs to be 3 cars. Like Toyota makes a bunch of cars, just get like Land Cruiser for first, Hilux for second, and a bloody whatever Corolla or hatchback or something for third. Imagine coming second by a point and missing out on a bloody car.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, guys.
That's a rort. Yeah. Hey,
anyone in the top 100 gets a cap saying you're in the top 100. So it's kind of like they're almost more sought after than the car.
Yeah,
said everyone who's never won the car. But look, it's a fun game. It's not for everyone, but it's a really, really good way to learn about not just your own team, but like all the other players in the league and just how they're performing in terms of racking up the footy axe. So yeah, look, I've loved it over the years, and I'm going to continue playing it. But I'll probably just reel it back in and not have so many teams.
I mean, I find that though, because I've played it in the past. I mostly stopped playing it because living abroad with the different lockouts, it got impossible to keep track of it. It was exhausting. And that's why I stopped playing. But I've always found that people who play fantasy games, like AFL fantasy or any sport really, they know not just their own team's players, but all the other team's players. Like you can tell me all about like Suns players and Roos players that I don't know anything about from this. And it's the same whenever I got mates that are playing this. They have really good knowledge of other teams.
Shout out to our mate Holmesy, Joel Holmes. He's he loves that NBA fantasy, doesn't he? He
sure does.
Gets into that.
I don't know if he actually watches NBA, but he certainly plays NBA fantasy.
I don't know if he listens to this podcast, but we'll certainly give him some
we'll
stick
find out. Actually, time recently, like 2 years ago, we were in, I think it was Hong Kong, catching up, and we hadn't seen each other for a year or more, for whatever it was, and we're downstairs in some eatery or whatever, and he's there on his phone watching NBA games on his stream rather than talking to his mates who he hasn't seen for like a year. So.
I love his dedication. I love that. That's my level of fantasy. I love that.
Yeah.
I think when he found out that we were doing a podcast, so I do 2 podcasts, he was like, "Wowzers, Noddy, you're like," and he referenced some Aussie guy who's like really big in NBA fantasy, who I'd never heard of, but he was, I was like, "Oh, thanks, Holmesy. That's really nice." Anyway, so we've spoken about Joel a fair bit now. If he doesn't listen to this, he's an absolute jerk.
Yeah.
All right, Stevo, VFL, what do you got?
Again, not much. There was a scratch match on the Saturday morning before the main game versus the Suns. Swans reserves played the Bulldogs reserves. All we really know out of the game is that Chad Warner was the best on ground, that Sam Reid played well, and that Dylan Stevens playing across half forward also played well, and that Joel Amati played under the first half and then was rested, and that's it. That's the only info that we've been able to dredge up.
All right, well, those 4 players they're probably in the mix, so it's good to hear that they played a bit of good footy, so that's good. All right, we're moving on to segment 2 now, which is AFL Hot Topics, where we have a quick chat about a few things going on in the AFL in general. Number 1, Stevo, All-Australian team. So the squad's been announced. They're going to finalise the team this Thursday. Tell us a little bit about how our Swannies went, mate.
Oh, after spending the entire season, the 2 of us moaning that we weren't going to get any Swans, we got 4, which is pretty good. So 10%. Yeah. Maybe the selectors were listening to us. Nick Revolt and Richo and whoever else is on the panel. 4 Swans got into the squad, which is pretty good. So Luke Parker, Callum Mills, Tom Papley, and Buddy Franklin all made it. And I would suggest that maybe Dawson and Hickey could have been close to the top 40, but they didn't quite get it. But yeah, still to have 4 is a good reward for the season, I think.
Maybe even Heaney. Heaney's had some stellar games, but maybe just not as consistent, some of these other guys. So, all right, well, who do you think of those guys deserves to be, in the final team?
I mean, realistically, it's tough to get into the final 22, and it's especially tough if you're a midfielder because there's a lot of gun midfielders in the comp, like, half the elite players in the AFL are midfielders, like, or more. So based on that, I would say that Parker, even though he's had a fantastic year, probably would be lucky to get in. And Mills, again, given that he's missed the last, almost the last month of footy now with his quarantine plus injury, maybe Mills would be unlucky. Franklin is a chance, just because he's had a really, really good year. He's kicked a lot of goals. He's what are we looking before? Was he equal 4th in the Coleman or something like that?
Yeah.
So he's
tied with Walker and Bruce.
Yeah, and he's missed a few games too, Franklin. So he's played less games than those other guys at the top. So Franklin might be a bit of a smoky, but the one that I'm going to really aggressively defend is Tom Papley. I reckon he's had a fantastic season. And if you look at the other people who are the contenders to get into the team, so like sort of the small, medium forwards, I think Toby Green from the Giants is a definite. He'd be a lock in the team. I think that probably you're going to have Jake Stringer on a half forward flank, probably Petrarca from Melbourne on the other half forward flank. So I'd say those 3 spots are locked in, but that still leaves probably one more spot in the team for a sort of a small, medium forward. And then probably Charlie Cameron from Brisbane and Bailey Fritsch from Melbourne would be the other main contenders, along with Papley. I don't know. Cameron's got a few more goals per game than Papley, like marginally 2.1 to 1.9, which is nothing really. But then I think Papley often plays a lot higher. I think Papley feeds the forward line, which you can see from he's got double the inside 50s than what Charlie Cameron has. He's got double the clearances. He has an impact of stoppages compared to Cameron, and he also brings other players into the game. He's got double the goal assists that Cameron has. So, so on that, I would edge him ahead of Cameron, and then Fritsch is probably the other one from Melbourne. Again, marginally ahead on goals. It's 2.2 to 1.9, which again is nothing on an average. But that's really it. I mean, when it comes to goal assists, you've got Papley's got roughly 3 times the goal assists per game to Fritsch. He's got roughly 1.5 times more inside 50s. His overall disposal is a little bit ahead. And I think Fritsch has got less competition for space in the forward line. I mean, Franklin's sharing a forward line with Franklin, and Papley is sharing a forward line with Franklin and Heaney most weeks. And
Hayward and whichever tall.
Yeah. That's it. So it's a tough gig just to get your hands on the footy in the Swans forward line. But the thing I really think for Papley that I love, and my speech is almost finished in defence of Tom Papley. I'm almost at the end. Anyone else who's making a cup of tea can come back in about 30 seconds. Anyone who doesn't like Tom Papley.
No one.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone loves him.
So my final point on Papley is his goal assist. This is a guy who really brings other players into the game. So I looked at Papley is ranked 15th in the Coleman medal at the moment. I looked at the top 15 people in the Coleman medal and where they're ranked for goal assists. And Papley is the only forward who is ranked in the top 10 that's a regular forward. Papley is 6th overall for goal assists. Harry Himmelberg from the Giants is 2nd. So of the top 15 goal scorers for this year, only 4 of them are in the top 50 for goal assists. And that's Papley 6th, Hawkins 15th, Revolt 21st, and Green 25th. So Papley's ability to not only hit the scoreboard, but to bring other people into the game and get them on the scoreboard, I think puts him in the elite category and a very worthy forward pocket in the All-Australian team. That's it.
Listen, Stevo, you've got my vote. I think you might need to put this in writing and send it to the powers that be. Who did you say? Nick Rewalt, and who else is on?
I think there's like 9 or 10 of them. There's stacks. Revolt's the one that I always remember because he's on the couch and they're always getting stuck into him, the other panelists, to try and get their favourites in.
Listen, if you just send that in an email, you've done their job for them. You've got all the numbers there. Papley's in the team. It's got to be.
Yeah, Stevo, he's a lock for me.
Yeah, fantastic. I think Franklin might be. I think Mills has probably missed a little too much footy. Had the injuries and the COVID thing at the wrong time. Parker for the reason you said, but yeah, maybe Buddy gets in, and I think that will make him that'll be his 9th All Australian, and then he beats everyone, right? I think at the moment there's like Danger, Gary Ablett, Junior, and a couple of other players on tied on 8 for the most All Australian. So if he gets this, then he'll be the most ever. Imagine if he got that in a year where he kicks 1,000. So I don't know. I just have this feeling that maybe Buddy will get in. I think you said maybe he's on the bench as an impact player. Imagine having Buddy on your bench.
Yeah, he'd be all right.
It'd be a pretty handy sub, wouldn't he? All right, let's move on. Rising Star Award. Also to be announced this Thursday. Which Swans are nominated and how do you reckon we'll go?
We've got 4, which is great. So we've got Errol Goulden, round 1 nomination, Braden Campbell, round 2, Chad Warner, round 3. And I think at that point we thought we were going to get one every week until we ran out of rookies, but we had to wait. We had to wait till round 16 for Justin McInerney to get his 2nd nomination. Actually, he was also nominated last year, so this will be 2nd time up for him.
Yeah, awesome. So of those, how do you think? How do you see it? Like, who? What's your top 5?
Top 5, yeah. I mean, because that's how they vote. Hey, so I thought about this because the Rising Star judges, I don't know how many there are, like 6 or 10 of them or whatever. They all give their 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I would have Tom Green from the Giants for 1 vote, 2 to Goulden, 3 to Jackson from Melbourne, 4 to Georgiades from Port. I think he's had a really good year. And I have McInerney's not being talked about in the favourites, but I think in terms of impact in the side that he plays in, he's my number 1. I gave 5 to Justin McInerney.
Well, I prepared a list, and I'm thinking I'll just throw it on its head because I really like Tom Green, and I've said on this podcast many times that he's a player that I think I would love to see in the red and white. He has been dropped a couple of times. I don't know what's going on there with Leon Cameron, but I mean he's dropped Cornelio before, hasn't he? So I had him at 1, but I'm thinking, stuff it. I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going to do Jackson on 1, Goulden on 2. Georgiades on 3, Green on 4, and also Juzzy McInerney on 5. So I initially had Jackson higher, but I was like, we were talking before, and some of the points you raised. What'd you say? I think you said that Amadi and McLean had similar numbers than him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's done really, really well to establish himself as a young guy, as an important player in a strong team. So based on that, I have him ranked very highly. But his actual season and his numbers, I mean, he's kicked 15 goals. He's had he's had a fairly good impact. But if you look at his season averages compared to like our tall ruck forwards, McLean, like that are young, McLean and Amadi, it's not dramatically different from their season. So I still have him in the top five. I think he's had a really good year. But yeah, I don't think he's been the best. I think McInerney has been very, very important to the Swans this year.
Goodness me, imagine if we could get another rising star in the stable. How fantastic. Fingers crossed. Well, hopefully it's between McInerney and Goulden. But yeah, we'll obviously report on that once we know this Thursday. All right, Stevo, one sentence on each of the teams, on each of the eliminated teams so far. So we'll start with you on 9th and West Coast Eagles.
I've written down here, enough good players, but the lack of effort has been a worry this year.
Absolutely. I've got 10th St Kilda, a team of good players playing individually, except against us in round 21.
Yeah, right. They put it out. I've got Fremantle 11th. They seem to be building, even if it's a bit slower than expected. Maybe some would have thought they got into the finals this year, but they didn't. And they've got some really good kids, even if they lose Adam Chera. Yeah, solid year.
Yeah, Caleb Sarong. Did you see that goal he kicked?
Yeah.
That was incredible. All right, I've got the Dynasty, the ambush of Tigers in 12th. End of an era. Hard to win without key players, but that's inevitable eventually. Dusty out is just probably the biggest out, you would think. Anyway.
13th was the Blues. Oh, look, I mean, honestly, I don't have much excitement about the Blues, besides an elite handful of players that they've got, and I think that's 4. That's it. And the way that they're treating David Teague and his coaching future / non-future is disgusting. Like, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, it's rubbish. 14th, Hawks. Look, Silk's 400th, the high point. And then Clarko's exit surely will bring some heat on how Kennett goes about things, because that was just similarly disgusting, I think, as the Teague thing. But yeah.
So the Crows came 15th. I think they got some really good kids. They got a great coach, Matty Nix, former Swan. And I think next year they should get more consistent. So positive future. Yeah,
I think they're going to break out in the next couple of seasons. 16th, Suns. Wow, just too inconsistent. It's hard to get excited about another batch of really, really good young players. So you feel you're a little bit nervous for Stewie Dew there. But are they going to bring Clarko in? And can he bring results? Who knows?
Second last this year was the Magpies, 17th. Like, off field, it seems like a mess. And on field, looks like they're probably going to be down the bottom for a while, at least a few more years. They've got a lot of work to do, Magpies. Yeah,
I think I read that maybe Pendlebury might not extend. Like, he's seeking some coaching, segue into coaching, and then not there yet. But I can't imagine him anywhere else. All right, we've got the 18th place Roos. Look, exciting things ahead for the Roos. I think Noble's going to bring it together. They're just going to go from strength to strength. But I do think they need another good key forward, at least. All right, Stevo, last one. Okay, which one, not two, which one team is your pick to push into the 8 in 2022?
One team. All right. This is pretty conservative, but I'm going to say Richmond. I reckon that we haven't quite seen the end of them. I don't think they'll contend next year, but I reckon they could sneak into 7th or 8th.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Freo. I think they're, I just think if they get some of those key players back, like Fife, and who knows what's happening with Walters, and Mundy could probably go till he's 50. But coupled with these youngsters coming through, I think they're on the fringe for sure. Well, they were this year. They were very close. So, all right. If you've got nothing else, that brings us to segment 3. We're going to do the round ahead preview. In this last segment, we're going to preview the most important game of next round, and that is, of course, the Swans' next game. After that, we're going to finish off with our tips for week 1 of the finals. So game 2 of the first week of finals is an elimination, quote unquote, home final for the Bloods, who finished in 6th place for the year, scheduled to take place this Saturday afternoon on the 28th of August at UTAS Stadium in Launceston, Tasmania, against our local rival, the GWS Giants, who finished the year in 7th place, with first bounce at 3:20 p.m. local time. All right, injury status and team changes, Steve. How do we pull up health-wise, and what changes might we be looking at?
We all know the big one, which was Callum Mills with his sore Achilles. He was subbed out in the 3rd quarter of the Suns game. Didn't look very good. Kennedy still seems to be injured with a hamstring. I just saw John Longmire do a bit of press this afternoon on Tuesday, and he said that Kennedy he ran, I think on Monday, he ran again today, but they're not sure. I mean, he's going to have to do a lot more, was Longmire's words on Thursday, to get picked. And Blakey, as we know, is out for the season. In terms of ins and outs, O'Riordan did pretty well, but I think Fox, for me, is still the more solid pick in that defender role. And he played really well when he came on as the sub as well. So I'd bring Fox in for O'Riordan. And then it gets all about what ifs, what if Kennedy's fit? What if Mills is fit? What if none of them are fit? What if one of them's fit? If they're both fit, then we need to drop someone, but probably they won't be both fit, but we would need to drop someone. So probably Rowbottom or Campbell to be the next out. Neither of them deserve to get dropped, but if you take Mills and Kennedy ahead of either of those two. And then Warner is the floating name that people are asking questions about now. What do you reckon?
Look, I've got exactly the same as you, so there's almost no point me adding. It's the exact same thing. My only question is, Rowbottom, Campbell, or Florent? Would you add Florent to that?
Maybe, although I don't know. I think Florent, he was pretty good, especially in the second half last week. He's played every game this year, so it makes you think that he's playing some sort of structural role, which is important to them, or they would have probably dropped him at some point already.
Definitely. And look, I think he had probably a better first half of the year, and we'll go through it in depth when we do the season summary. But he's one of the 4 players that are contracted to 2024. So he's definitely the future of the Swans. So yeah, for structural reasons and for like longevity, like future reasons, the way the club is going, he seems to be quite an important player. And for that reason, regardless of sometimes maybe not making the right decision, he's probably one of the first ones picked each week. But here's a question for you, Stevo, and maybe this isn't an ethical question to raise on air, but is there a temptation to manipulate the medical sub rule and play Mills and Warner for a half each?
Yeah, we were chatting about this because, we're thinking, would you play Mills if he's not right? What if he's kind of right? Is Warner fit to come in, given he hasn't played for so long? This is what I think is going to be interesting in these finals, because now we've got this medical sub rule. And unlike the concussion player, if you get subbed out as a medical sub, you can still play the next week with an injury. If you're concussed, you have to miss the next week. That's the rules. So I'll be very interested to see whether clubs for the finals now are willing to risk players who aren't quite right, because they know that if they just can't get through the game, they've got someone fresh to bring on. If you thought you could get 60 good minutes out of Mills and 15 touches and a goal, or 18 touches and a goal like he did against the Suns, would you just play him and then bring on a fit Chad Warner? I would.
Yeah, probably would, to be honest.
Yeah.
I guess it depends if that's going to then keep him out the following week. Obviously you have to do everything you can to get the win, because it's do or die each week. But yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? So, and I'm sure that's already been floated. It's probably been floated prior to this, and not by us. It's probably been in discussion by all the clubs at different points of the year. But and I think in the first weekend of this new rule, that it looked like that's how coaches were going to use this rule. They were going to make strategic moves, like players almost going down to get subbed off. But yeah, look, we'll know on Thursday when teams are announced. So in terms of GWS, mate, who's in the mix for them?
Xavier, this is so hard to say. Xavier O'Halloran, I think. I actually thought that he was one of their Irish players because of his name for ages, and then I realised he's from Victoria. But I'm sure he's got Irish roots. But anyway, yeah, he hurt his leg in the game last week. He was subbed out.
This is the bloke that can't keep his jersey on. This is the guy that keeps getting his Guernsey ripped in tackles, right? It's like it just falls off him. It's like. Get some double stitching, bro.
They need to get a new apparel partner at the Giants.
We're thinking of anything we can to slag these guys off.
It's the ultimate older brother bullying the younger brother thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but they're so dangerous.
Yeah, that's it. As soon as the older brother realizes the younger brother is big enough to hold his own in a fight, then you've only got words left.
Exactly.
I'm an older brother. I've lived that. So,
me too.
Yeah, you are as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
shout out to Maddie and Nugget there.
Yep. O'Halloran hurt his leg last week, And Caniglio replaced him as a sub. Now, the big question is Caniglio going to start this week? I saw him interviewed just before, and he said that he's fit and keen to play. He hasn't played since round 18 against the Swans, like as a starting game, and before that, not since round 3. So he'll be coming back in after a long time without much footy. And then the other two that are in the mix, probably Phil Davis and Shane Mumford, the possibilities to come into the seniors. Mumford missed last week, and Davis hasn't played since round 20. So whether they bring in 3 potentially veterans who haven't had a lot of footy, we'll find out in a couple of days.
I think I also heard that maybe Braden Pruce, their prize ruck recruit, isn't too far away, but you'd almost put Mummy in if he's fit against the Swans, hey, just for how he can bully us. I mean, I don't want him to be, but yeah, I think either of those guys would be dangerous. All right, Stevo, performance prediction. Which Swanee do we see flying high and why?
I want Isaac Heaney. This match, and shall we hopefully go further this final series, I want Isaac Heaney to put his stamp down and show that he's a star.
Yeah, I love that. I almost want to change my answer. Okay, wait. Okay, look, I asked for 2 weeks in a row now. I asked for 2 goals from Sam Reid, and he didn't deliver because he couldn't deliver because he was omitted. All right, well, there you go. So, look, for me, I think Parker and Rampy are going to be the steady hands guiding us through the turmoil ahead. So, they're just going to do what they do, but they're the guys I think we need to go to and lean on. Opposition danger players, which giant do we need to be wary of?
And before I say this one, actually, I think you probably did get a couple of goals out of Sam Reid because he was listed as one of the best in the scratch match against the Dogs reserves. So he probably kicked a couple of goals.
Technicality. All right, I'll take it.
Yeah, so
I'll take it.
You weren't all wrong.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, mate.
You're welcome. I reckon Sam Taylor from the Giants, he's having a great season.
So good.
Down back. He just marks everything. He's incredible. Every time I watch him, I'm like, where did this guy even come from? Like, he's just popped onto the scene. I reckon by this time next year, he's going to be like the elite backman in the comp or close to it. And it's like when he's in the back line and coming out, it's almost like they're kicking to him. That's how good he's positioning and in his anticipation. So Sam Taylor, he might get the match up on Buddy. We'll see. If he does, then Franklin's going to have, he won't have the day that he had against the Suns where he could just run amok. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, you've just reminded me, and this goes back to our All-Australian conversation. I think they've got Jacob Wiedering from Carlton as that key back role. And obviously Sam Taylor, his name just came up then. He could, maybe not this year, but certainly in the following years, he will be up there. But I think you mentioned off air that Alir really should be the player to get that key back role this year after the year he's had. I was just reminded of it then. But did you have a comment there about Chandelier, mate?
Oh, I think he's had a fantastic season, literally. And I think with Wiedering, like I'm not knocking him as a player. I think he's a very, very good footballer. But I think that when you're one of the main players or like a leader of the defence, which has been the worst defence for the season pretty much, then, you haven't had the best year, have you? You might have got a lot of stats, but, you're getting absolutely pumped every time the ball comes inside 50.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see because Alir is in the squad and Sam Taylor isn't. But I think the reason I brought it up was just reminded me that our ex-Swan, Alir, might not get the chocolates over Sam Wiedering, Jacob Wiedering, but that just doesn't make sense to me. So, all right, back to the game ahead. Sorry, the players that I think we need to be careful of course, as always, Toby Green and your favourite man, Jacob Hopper. These guys both have X factors. Did you see that goal from Hopper against Carlton? He sold candy about 3 times, came in and kicked a ripper.
He's great.
It was unreal. Yeah, but look, both these guys can carry the Giants over the line on their own back. So these are the guys that I think we just every time we play them, we've got to try and shut down. Obviously, Toby Green will take some stopping, but Jacob Hopper, again, I don't know, how do you stop him? He's so powerful out of the centre bounce there. Otherwise, Daniel Lloyd, Coastie, one of the nicest kicks on goal going around and really has a knack of standing tall in crunch games, especially if Brent Daniels, who's their other, clutch player, isn't back in with a Hemi. Otherwise, they've just got heaps of stars, haven't they? Whitfield, Taranto, Canelio, danger everywhere. I know we said which one player, but it's a bit hard to limit yourself when you're talking about the Giants. All right, winning formula requirements. How do we get the win this week, mate?
Oh, look, it's the basics, I guess. It's the stuff that we do well, So, our elite pressure, our run and our ball use, when we've done that this year, we've looked really, really good. If they put us off our game, like teams have done this year, we absorb their pressure and we give it back. And this idea, this basic makes us brilliant, or basics make us brilliant. In the last quarter of the Suns game, you can see a shot of the Swans bench, and you can see the whiteboard that's sort of down, and you can read the top maybe quarter of the whiteboard, and there's a big written in big text pen on there saying basics make us brilliant. So that's clearly the focus of the team. And then the two that you could actually see listed below was tackles and contested possessions, but I'm sure they would have had some other ones listed. But yeah, do the basics right.
I love it. Good eagle eye Stevo there. I love it when you check out the whiteboards and report to everyone. Fantastic.
I love the whiteboard. That's too many years coaching, I think. I get so excited about the whiteboard.
I remember when we played the Giants most recently, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but Hopper was, as they usually have like 3 or 4 target players, and Hopper was at the top of that list. I think at the moment, probably Taranto is another one that you'd pop up there just for the way he's playing. But anyway, okay, I back you up 100%. Ditto. They will, in all likelihood, smash us in clearances. Hopefully, we can provide some contest. But if not, we really need to just, keep up that tackle pressure, keep us in the hunt, and then from there, it's all about taking our chances with the likes of Isaac Heaney, Hayward, all of our forwards that can contribute. Hopefully, we can have multiple goal kickers, as we spoke about earlier on in this episode. All right, let's look at recent form and previous meetings. So obviously, our Swannies had 15 wins for the year, 7 losses, and came 6th. The Giants had 11 wins, 1 draw, and 10 losses, and finished 7th. We have won 4 of the last 5, 3 games against top 8 teams or contenders, St Kilda, Essendon, and Freo. But our last loss was against St Kilda in round 21. The Giants, on the other hand, have also had 4 wins from their last 5. They're on a 3-game winning streak. Their 2 wins have been against top 8 teams, Geelong and Essendon, and they smashed Richmond by 39 points. The Swannies have won 2 of the past 5 games against the Giants, with our last win coming in round 18 this year, 26-point win, and our last loss also being in this year in round 5 at the SCG in that 2-point heartbreaking loss with Josh Kelly kicking that goal, that unmarked goal in the dying minutes of the game. Interestingly, though, the margins of the last 5 games have been GWS by 41, GWS by 2, Sydney by 41, GWS by 2, and then Sydney by 26. So lots of 41s and 2s in there. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but what did you make of that, Steve?
I saw this actually when I saw this in the run sheet when you put it there, and the first thing that came to my mind was some players. So 41 points is Mumford. He's played for the Swans and the Giants. 2 is Hopper, who we could very much welcome into the fold. He's off contract at the end of this year. Caden Brand wears number 2 for the Swans. I'm sure if he gets a new contract, he'd be willing to shift his jumper to a different one on the list.
Who's that, Caden Brand?
Yeah, Caden Brand. I'm sure he'd accommodate Hopper. Yep.
He might be told to.
Yeah, he's not going to get a choice. If he wants a contract, he'll wear something else, don't he? And then 26, Luke Parker. I mean, one of the best Swans that we've had in a long time. So there's some omens.
Luke the Iceman Parker.
He is.
Luke the Iceman Parker.
Unbelievable.
Might, kick us the winning goal on the siren to get ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Look, the Giants have had, as I said, 11 wins. In their 10 matches against top 8 teams, they've won 5 times by an average of 9 points. So usually close and at a 50% rate there. But we've kicked the second most goals this year behind Brisbane Lions. Conversely, GWS are 8th on the ladder for goals kicked. Sydney's 7th highest for disposal efficiency, GWS 11th. However, for inside 50 efficiency, GWS came 2nd and Sydney 11th. So a bit of a gap there. Sydney's played GWS twice before in finals, in a qualifying final in 2016, which GWS won by 36 points. And then again in 2018 in an elimination final, as you mentioned already, Stevo, which the Giants won by 49. And we were actually at that game and it was not fun. So let's hope playing in Tassie brings us some good luck. And I think,
oh man, yeah, I tell you what, it's going to be an interesting game down there because there's a good chance it's 10 degrees and blowing a gale from end to end. So we'll see how the game goes.
So
And
we, oh, no, you go. I'll say something after this.
yeah, and actually, I should mention my grandfather was born in Launceston, so there you go. Maybe his spirit will get the Swans over the year. He was a Fitzroy fan all of his life, and then when Fitzroy got shafted, he started to develop quite a soft spot for the Swans in his later years. So maybe he'll be looking over them down in Launceston.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. I love that. Actually, that's great.
So
So
fingers
what
crossed.
was his name, Stevo?
Lloyd Gladstone was his name.
Lloyd. Look out.
Yeah,
So we've
Lloyd.
got a Lloyd in the team. I'm loving. You're really seeing the superstition in me coming out here.
He'll
I'm
take
taking
anything,
everything I
yeah.
can get at this point.
What else can I come up with for you to help you feel less stress between now and Saturday?
Anything at this point, mate.
Here's something else then. Okay, here's another interesting tidbit. There's only been, in the years since the Giants have been a finals team, there's only been 4 times that both the Swans and the Giants have been in the 8 at the same time, and so have been in the final series. And this will be the 3rd time out of 4 that we've played them in the finals, which I thought was pretty interesting too. So we tend to clash in the finals despite not having many opportunities to do so.
Yeah, goodness. So that's why I think it's a bit worrying. So we really need to be on our game to beat these guys. One last thing. So as members or home game members, or every home game member of the Swans, we had first dibs at the pre-sale for tickets down in Tassie. Obviously, we couldn't go because of lockdown and all that, but we were able to share our barcodes with friends in Tasmania who could then access the pre-sale. I think it was on between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. Yesterday. And then I think my little bro Nugget told me that they sold out by 6 p.m. So, they had priority access for 2 hours. And then 2 hours after that, the whole game had been sold out. So it is definitely going to be the place to be in northern Tasmania come this Saturday. So it should be a cracker. And let's hope we can get done what we need to. But with all of that in mind, Steve, who are you tipping?
Yeah, that's awesome. By the way, I didn't know that. I hadn't heard that about the crowd and the tickets. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I should also shout out to there's one of my favorite YouTubers, Tazdaz Down Under. He does food reviews and various things, and he's a big Swans fan based in near Hobart in Tasmania. So for the fingers crossed, he gets up there for the game.
Surely.
Yeah, he's a legend. Check him out on YouTube. The game, I think the Swans will win. I think it's probably going to be a tight game, but I could also see it blowing out. Probably more likely to blow out our way than their way. I feel like if they win, it'll be a tight game, and I think it'll probably be a tight game. But if there is a blowout, then it could be more likely to be on our side of it, because there's a big gap in the ladder. When you just read out, there's 3.5 wins between these two teams. That's a big gap between 6th and 7th. 3.5 wins is huge, right? But I feel like that's not on the field. I don't think that there's a 3.5 win season gap on the field. I think it's going to be very, very tight.
I'm picking the Swans in a tight one, but yeah, as always, every single week, I'm nervous as heck. All right, Stephen. Lastly, if a group of Swans is called a bevy, then what is a group of Giants called?
Oh, look, mate, this is getting hard. I think for next year, we're going to have to come up with something else for this segment, because this is the 3rd time this year I've had to do the Giants. I'm running out.
I love making you think of these things.
Yeah,
you always come up with something cleverer and cleverer.
You enjoy
Not
it.
Dumb and dumberer there, but cleverer and cleverer.
So the first time they were a percussion of Giants. That's actually the technical term according to the internet. And then we called them an upstart, which was a bit arrogant on our part. So let's not be that cocky. Luckily, I've looked at it, and the only way we can get another triple up this year is if we play the Bombers in the grand final. So,
well, let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, thankfully, I won't have to deal, hopefully, with another triple one. But anyway, I think for the Giants this year, I mean, the Giants, because we talk about how much we've struggled throughout the year because, we've had to move around and we haven't been at home. And the Giants have had exactly the same for all of that. So they've been very much in the same boat. The Swans and Giants have shared charter flights around the place quite a bit from what we see from the pitches. And just getting to the finals, I think, has been a huge effort given how they started the year. The Swans have been in the 8 since the very first week, whereas the Giants have had a different path forward. So the Swans have had, they've been in the 8, 23 weeks of the season. And of the other top 6 teams, the least amount of weeks that any of them has been out of the 8 has been 5, which is Brisbane, because they started slowly, but they were very quickly in the 8. But since round 6, the top 6 has been locked away. So 7th and 8th have been the spots to fight for. The Giants have pretty much come from the clouds. They were in the 8 for 1 week in round 10, 1 week in round 16, 1 week in round 19. They dropped out in round 20, got back for the final 3 rounds of the season to finish up 7th. So for 6 of 23 rounds this year, they've been in the 8 and they've managed to get into the finals. And you wouldn't even have dreamed of it a month and a half ago. So I think that's a pretty fantastic effort. Like a superhero sort of effort. And they've played their last 9 games away from home. They've had a crazy injury list. So I'm calling them, in honor of all of the superheroes of the Pantheon, I'm calling them a marvel of Giants this week.
But obviously not playing at Marvel Stadium.
No. Imagine if they were. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, okay. A marvel of Giants. Well, let's
marvel of Giants.
They're a marvel of Giants, but hopefully they're not so marvelous, and that we can get the win. So, yeah, I think you got one more thing to add there, Stevo.
Yeah, a bit of a sad note, or a very sad note, really, just to finish this section. I just wanted to pay tribute to Alan Ward, who passed away last week. He'll be remembered in New South Wales football for his many, many years of hard work developing Australian football on the Central Coast and in the Hunter. And really, he was one of the drivers coming through the late 90s and 2000s that made it possible for football to be a real option for young players in those regions at a time where the game was really still finding its feet in rugby league heartland. So, Alan Ward, you are very much missed, and we thank you for everything you've done for growing football in New South Wales.
Condolences there to the Ward family, Vale, Alan Ward. All right, next up, we give our predictions for the remaining 3 finals games, and these are all in Australian Eastern Standard Time. Second qualifying final is Port Adelaide second against Geelong Cats in third, and that's at Adelaide Oval on Friday, the 27th of August at 7:50. The second elimination final is Sydney Swans 6th versus GWS Giants 7th, UTAS Stadium, Launceston, Saturday, 28th of August at 3:20 p.m. The first qualifying final is Melbourne 1st versus Brisbane Lions 4th, Adelaide Oval, Saturday, 28th of August, 7:30 p.m. And the first elimination final is the Western Bulldogs 5th versus Essendon 8th at UTAS Stadium, Launceston, at Sunday, the 29th of August at 3:20 p.m. Stevo, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, we've got an interesting bunch of games, and I thought that an interesting thing to do here would be to look at how the top 8 teams that are in the finals now have gone against the other top 8 teams. So made up a little ladder of the games of the season if you only included games of top 8 versus top 8. And the ladder is very interesting. Melbourne is on top with 8 wins and 2 losses against other fellow finalists. Swans are second, 6-3. The Giants are third, 5-5, Brisbane 4-4, Bulldogs 4-5, Geelong 4-5, Port 4-4, Essendon 1 win, 8 losses against other finals teams. And then percentage-wise, most of the teams are around about the 100% mark. They've had a fairly even for and against the top teams, except for the Giants and Essendon. Giants are 83% and Essendon are 79%. So when they've won against top teams, like you mentioned before, the Giants, they've won by fairly narrow margins. And when they've lost, they've had some pretty decent kickings, and the Bombers the same when they've lost 8 of their 9 games against the top teams. The only one that they won was a couple of weeks ago, and it's the Bulldogs, and we're rapidly changing our opinion of the Bulldogs. So based on that, who do you reckon is going to win these ones?
So we're picking our winners for each of the games. We're not tallying up so we're done with the tipping comp.
Yeah, you won the tipping comp. You won the tipping comp by by a fair margin after my final round where I played the old ice hockey open net strategy and failed. You won by 126 correct tips to 116.
Awesome. So what's your local beer there in Turku, Finland, Stevo?
Mate, I'll send a case your way once I can get the customs sorted out, because it took my parents about 2 months to get me a jar of Vegemite around Christmas time. So expect your beers in time for pre-season.
No worries. What is the beer I need to look out for, though? I'm curious.
I mean, I guess the local one here, Aura, probably. I mean, it's actually made by a bigger company now, but the river that runs through the town here is called Aura, and that's one of the more commercially available ones. There's plenty of small breweries and stuff around, but
I like the sound of that. A nice ice cold Aura.
Yeah,
I'll have a case of that. Thank you, mate. All right. So who's my pick for for these games? Okay, I think this is just for the fun of it now. I think Port will get up against the Cats in Adelaide. I think the Swannies will get up against the Giants. I think the Lions will beat the D's. And then I think the Bombers are going to upset the Dogs.
Okay, we're split on them because we agree on. I agree with you on the Swans, and I agree with you on the Bombers for the elimination finals. But for the other two, I reckon the other way. I reckon Melbourne might beat Brisbane, and I reckon the Cats might get up over Port.
Okay. And I think this is the question where you've really asked me to be succinct here. Your pick for the grand final. So this is the question you've asked me,
Yeah.
and I put 3 different combinations, and you said no,
Oh,
Noddy. One, you need to choose 2 teams now.
It's not how this works.
Really... All right, who'd you choose?
I reckon it's going to be a Geelong Melbourne grand final.
I reckon it's going to be Brisbane and Melbourne. But I'd love for the Swannies to be there, obviously.
So would I, and I've got my fingers crossed for them, and I don't think we're without a chance.
We're definitely with a chance. We're definitely with a chance. We've done enough this year. We've pointed it out all year. Our best is good enough, and we've got nothing to fear against the top 8 teams. So, yeah, here we go. We're in for another ride. We're back again. I love it. I love being a Swans fan, and when finals comes around, so it's fantastic, isn't it? All right, so well, that brings us to the end of this episode. On behalf of the Bevy, I'd like to say thank you very much for listening. We look forward to you joining us next time. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Bevy of Bloods for updates and announcements. Please also feel free to check out A Quick Bevy with Swans Fans on YouTube and Spotify, wherever you check out your videos and podcasts. A Quick Bevy is a short weekly bonus series by me and a few of my fellow home game members from the O'Reilly stand, Chris and Brett, in which Swans fans take it in turns, racing the clock to answer some Swans-related questions. Until then, up the Bloods, and can you, Swannies?